Welcome, people of planet Earth and all planets beyond. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Josh, and I recently bought one of the rarest pairs of Levi's ever.
Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing, a few hundred of these. He's one of the most decorated women's basketball players of all time. So in the early 1980s, Levi's was the official sponsor for the U.S. Olympic team. In 1980, they sponsored the team in Lake Placid, and of course they would have sponsored the team in Moscow, but of course we were boycotting that year. They also sponsored the team in 1984 in the Summer Olympics and in the Winter Olympics. Levi's used this opportunity to make tons and tons of Olympic merchandise and engage the public with all kinds of different new products with the Olympic branding and the Levi's branding all at the same time. They even took a poll to basically get a democratically elected idea of what the Olympians should wear at the opening ceremony. Should it be an activewear look? Should it be a classic Levi's look or a Western look? In the past, they had gone with Western looks. But for the 1984 Olympics, which were held in Los Angeles, the public decided to go for the active look, which makes sense because the 80s were fitness crazed. And so they decided on Levi's velour track suits. And that is the suit that you can see famous athletes like Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing wearing at the opening ceremony. So in the 84 Olympics, we won lots of gold medals, which we typically do pretty well in the Summer Olympics anyway, but we hadn't won a gold medal in women's basketball ever. The previous year, we didn't even play or compete for the gold. But that would all change here, partly because of a player named Denise Curry, who led the women's team to gold in 1984, our first gold in many decades. Denise would go on to be a Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer, and she's one of the most decorated women's basketball players of all time, even having her jersey retired in the rafters of UCLA alongside players like Bill Walton and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So why am I telling you all about Denise Curry? Well, that's because in 1984, Levi's produced a very special gift for all of the gold medal winners, which obviously includes Denise, meaning there are only a few hundred of these that actually ever were produced, and here is one of them. So these are the jeans right here. They're incredible for lots of different reasons, but obviously you saw some of those amazing details. I do want to take a little bit closer look at the jean. Here you can actually see for this particular jean, the tags are still on. Denise never removed these tags. It appears that they just sat in storage just like this. Notice that this is not all that would normally be on a dead stock pair. And that's because these never went to an actual market, it appears. These would have just been what they would have put on for the factory, and there's no like barcodes and stuff that would have helped a supermarket or a retail store sell these things. You can tell there's some pretty unique differences about this pair of jeans right off the bat. Is that right here is a leather patch, which we've all sort of heard that the leather patches were eliminated in the 50s. But they brought back a special Levi's leather patch for this pair of jeans right here. Beautiful pair. You can actually see here that it has what appears to be a serial number. We don't really know what that number means. There is some speculation that this number is specifically attached to the athlete themselves. These were custom made for the individual Olympian. So these were 33 by 36, so 33 waist and 36 long for Denise Curry, who was above average height for a woman. So you can see that all of those details are still intact in this jean. Obviously, you saw some of the really cool elements here, like we have the gold thread red tab. And this gold thread red tab probably doesn't exist on any other pair of jeans that Levi's ever produced. They have produced lots of different variations of tabs, but I've not really found one that's particularly quite like this. You also saw the gold hardware on this pair of jeans. We're not sure, and it's certainly possible that that these might actually be like gold plated. We don't know, and hopefully we'll find out soon enough. But they're definitely gold in, which is incredibly unusual for a 501. I don't believe that there is another 501 that was ever produced with this type of gold hardware. So very unique there. You can see that it has the gold medal winners 1984 Olympics, made exclusively for those gold medal winners right there on the back on the waistband. And all of the gold buttons along the 501 button fly are gold as well. Now let's go look at the care tag. And if you don't know, you can actually use care tags to date your Levi's jeans pretty accurately down to the month and year of production. If you'd like to know more about how to do that, check the eye above for a huge playlist of all of our videos on how to date vintage Levi's. But here, looking at the tag, we can see a couple things. Obviously, we see the lot number 501, and then we see the material code 0115. And 0115 is actually a code for Sanfordized denim, meaning these are pre-shrunk and not shrink to fit. You can actually see then down below that is 532, and that 532 is the factory code, which we can also find on the back of the button stamped here. And then to the left of that is 1084, and that's the number we're looking for here. 1084 is the month and year of production, so the 10th month would have been October, and 1984 is the year of production. So these were actually produced after the Olympics. So once the gold medal winners were found, they were then given the opportunity to get these jeans by getting their measurements and having them custom made for them. So the jeans have an overlock out seam. These are not selvage denim. Levi's was right at the end of the selvage era in 1984, but these are the overlock seams. They actually have a single felled seam right here as well, which is inside the back. You can see that these do not have the black bar tacks that the earlier 501s would have had in the early 80s and the 70s. These have a like a white thread bar tack instead of the black thread bar tack. So why do I say these are such rare jeans? Well, that's because in 1984, there were approximately 180 or so actual American gold medal recipients. And as far as we can tell, they did not make these for the other countries' gold medal recipients, just the Americans. And in the Winter Olympics that year, there were only 4 gold medalists in that year. And we're not sure yet whether or not Levi's made some of these gold medal jeans for them, but we're certain about the Summer Olympics, and there were only about 180 ever awarded gold medals. So with that logic, it would assume that there were only about that same amount of these jeans ever produced in the first place, meaning that these are some of the rarest jeans and lowest runs that Levi's has ever produced a pair of jeans in. There are more Type 1 Levi's denim jackets floating around still around the world than this jean right here. There are more Type 2s. There are more, probably more World War II era Levi's floating around the world than there are of this particular pair. Now, of course, this pair isn't selvage. This pair isn't unshrunk or shrink to fit. So they're not necessarily fitting all of the characteristics that collectors or wearers like to wear. But in terms of sheer rarity and sheer the few number of production, this jean is among the rarest in the Levi's catalog. In fact, I believe Levi's only owns themselves 2 of these pairs, and I do know of one other person who owns one of these pairs. Other than that, I've not been able to find anywhere any other record of anyone else owning these jeans, selling these jeans, putting them up, taking photos of them. This was probably the first sort of serious expose of any gold medal winner 501s that has ever been done. Now, it's also cool to note that Michael Jordan probably has a pair of these somewhere. So somewhere on the planet is Michael Jordan's Levi's gold medal 501s. I would imagine that those are much more valuable than these, and if you can get your hands on that one, you definitely have a piece of history. Now, additionally, I actually possess Denise Curry's actual jacket that she was given, that all the Olympians were given, regardless of whether or not they placed in a medal or not. But this was made specifically for her. You can actually see that this jacket was produced, if you look at the care tag on it, was actually produced at the beginning of the year in January, whereas the pair of jeans was produced 9 months later. So this jean jacket right here was produced at the beginning of the year because this was used for all the Olympians, probably in the Winter and Summer Olympics, just as a gift as part of the wardrobe that Levi's sponsored them with. We'll talk more about this jacket in the future, but suffice it to say, it's a beautiful jacket, and it did belong to Denise Curry herself. So how did I get these jeans in the first place? Did I steal them from her home? Because obviously these were gifts to her. Well, I actually acquired it through a neighbor of hers who she gave these items to. In fact, I have a a plaque from her high school Most Valuable Athlete Award when she was in high school, sort of as a little bit of provenance. I got that along with the jacket and a bunch of other stuff to really prove that this was Denise Curry's. So a lot of cool things to really prove that these were hers and these were the gold medal jeans that she was given by Levi's. So obviously there are still some questions about this jean because there are so few in the world and definitely so few in the public eye. Trying to answer some of these questions is pretty hard. One of the main questions we have is whether or not this number back on the back patch is the serial number. Is that like the number that were produced? If so, then we're looking at more like 250 plus of these jeans produced. Obviously that would make it a little bit less rare, but still probably among the rarest still. But we don't know that. In fact, it doesn't even really appear that Levi's knows if that's true. The Levi's historian Tracy Panic actually commented on a couple of these pairs on an article back in the day, a few years ago, and seemed to suggest they didn't know whether or not that serial number was attached to an athlete or not. Also, I'd love to know whether or not these buttons are actual gold plated, 24 karat plated, I don't know. I'd imagine not, but you never know. If you're gonna win gold medal for your country, maybe they can at least do is, plate them with 24 karat gold or something like that. So hopefully we'll find that answer out pretty soon. And I also would like to know how many more of these are there out there and who has them. And can we match the athlete to the pair of jeans? Definitely something I'm looking forward to exploring as the years go by.
So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like vintage history, profiles on vintage clothing, hit the subscribe button for more. We have tons of content coming out all the time. And we have a few more of these with some cool items coming up soon, so you won't want to miss it. If you want to support the channel, hit the membership button below. It says join. You can support the channel. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.